It's looking like we might reach the destination of peace in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, very, very soon.
According to multiple reports, the U.S. and Ukraine have agreed to a minerals deal.
Per the New York Times, the draft deal says that Ukraine will pour half of its revenues from natural resources like critical minerals, oil, and gas into a fund. The U.S. would own as much of the fund as it's legally permitted to.
The fund would also reinvest some of its revenues into Ukraine. Under the deal, the U.S. would also support Ukraine's economic development.
Here's President Trump on Zelensky yesterday.
I hear that. I hear that he's coming on Friday. Certainly, it's okay with me if he'd like to. And he would like to sign it together with me. And I understand that's a big deal, very big deal.
Using Americans' economic power to get deals done has become a trademark of this second Trump administration. Recall that he threatened to use tariffs on Mexico and Canada in order to extort them to behave the way he wanted earlier this year. Now, a deal to end the 3-year Russia-Ukraine war does seem imminent.
Here's Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Fox and Friends this morning.
It looks like the mineral deal has been done. Can you confirm that?
Well, I can't confirm it. Obviously, our Secretary of Treasury, Bessent, is working on that, has done a great job of putting that together. So my last indication was that it was very close to the finish line. We were on the, not even the 1-yard line. We were like at the half-yard line, you know, like almost like when the Eagles push the quarterback across, you know, that tush-push thing. So it's close and it's good. Look, it's a good deal. It's an important deal. We still want to end this war. I mean, that's the important thing the president's made very clear. He campaigned on that.
Yet earlier this month, Zelensky and Trump had actually traded shots with each other. Trump called Zelensky a, quote, dictator who doesn't hold elections and apparently blamed him for the start of the war. Zelensky then said Trump was living in a Russian disinformation zone.
The Times reports that Zelensky had rejected a previous agreement where Trump requested $500 billion worth of mineral rights without specific security guarantees. Now, the final deal doesn't include the $500 billion fund, nor does it force Ukraine to repay the U.S. double for future aid, per the New York Times.
Yale history professor Timothy Snyder wrote on Blue Sky, "All we need for peace in Ukraine is for Russian soldiers to return to Russia."
CNN senior pundit Scott Jennings wrote on X, "If the result of Trump's peace efforts are an end to the killing, a sovereign and prosperous Ukraine, a rare earth mineral deal for the U.S., and Europe taking more responsibility for its own security, Trump will deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. He's a new broker dealing in political reality." And I agree with Scott. This sounds good. We're going to be involved, if this deal goes through, in a joint economic venture with Ukraine that ties us more closely to them in terms of that country's stability and economic future is good. Europe takes more responsibility for their defense, and then the war comes to an end. Yes, you know, as that Blue Sky person said, yes, Russia could end the war by not invading Ukraine. That would be fantastic. In, you know, magic fantasy land, that's what happens. On planet Earth, we need a deal to end the war, and it looks like this, you know, war of words between Trump and Zelensky was just part of posturing for some deal, and we're going to get a good one that benefits the U.S. and Ukraine, ends the war. I'm pleased as punch.
I'm not surprised that you're pleased, Robby, but also here on planet Earth, we don't know yet where Russia is on all of this, and we don't know yet where the lines will be drawn. Obviously, Russia has taken some significant territory from Ukraine by attacking a sovereign nation under a person who is not a dictator, despite what President Trump said recently.
Well, I think that territory is gone. I think that's the reality. I mean, they can't fight to take it back. They don't have the resources to do that. Putin is a dictator, bad guy. Zelensky has done a number of things I don't like and agree with. I would not have, I guess, described him as a dictator, although I got furious pushback earlier this week on this show from Niall, sitting in your chair, when I said that I basically...
really furious, or was he just emphatic?
I got unusual pushback. Well, not that he pushes back often, but he was taken aback at me characterizing virtually everyone in politics as a dictator. I very zealously guard my civil liberties, my free speech rights, and my money. And so when it is being taken, I feel that is almost de facto dictatorial. But
I think you shouldn't throw around the term dictator or fascist leader or anything like that very freely.
I think the term fascist leader does get thrown around pretty freely in the mainstream media.
And I don't agree with it. But look, here's the thing. I don't think we should just shrug our shoulders at a fifth of the landmass of Ukraine being turned over by an illegal invasion of their country. And I think this is why we keep coming back to it. And also, at the end of the day, we're still corroborating and legitimizing Russia in a way that I think is troubling. And that is why you're seeing so many EU leaders stepping forward and making their voices heard on this issue as well.
Fair enough, but what is their plan to do otherwise? I mean, what does the EU want to do about it? Do they want to declare war on Russia? Do they want to raise the funds or the resources or the arms or the soldiers to have an all-out confrontation with Russia where they push them out of Ukraine? On some level, it's like put up or shut up. If you're not willing to do that, then what's the point of just this like anti-Russian rhetoric or just like, yeah, we really disapprove of what they're doing? Very bad. I agree, it is very bad. They shouldn't have done it. Very bad. But what are you going to do about it? Nothing. Just complain about it? That doesn't solve the problem.
Well, to be fair, a number of European Union nations have said that they would ante up, and they have been actually supporting with their own resources.
Yeah. We've contributed
Obviously,
a lot.
The U.S. is the outsized player here, but you know, my filter for all of this and for everything that has been happening over the last, I think, just 5 weeks now, is how would we feel if the shoe were on the other foot? How would we feel if it was the U.S. that had been invaded by our neighbors to the north, for example? Would we be shrugging our shoulders at it? I don't think so.
No, we wouldn't. But you know, in an earlier segment, you said, you know, why are we spending, you know, more on defense than the next 46 countries? And well, do the next 46 countries expect us to defend them no matter what happens to them? That's why we end up having to spend so much money. If the rest of the world, our friends, view us as their private policemen, then we're always going to end up spending way too much money. And I just wonder if that keeps us safe. Are we more or less likely to be invaded ourselves? And we're not very likely to be invaded ourselves. No one's going to invade us. But are we more safe at home by focusing abroad and contributing to these conflicts? I don't know.
Well, I think, my opinion is yes, we are safer because we are a significant player in the global arena, whether that's from a diplomatic standpoint or it is from supporting our allies, whom I think are getting the short end here in general in this administration, because we shore them up. They stand with us on lots of things that I think are important. And then, you know, this circles back to the conversation we had many weeks ago now about USAID. Being engaged in soft diplomacy is also really important because we can't lock ourselves behind some great big wall and think that the world is never going to reach us.
Of course not. And I'm for diplomacy, and I'm for particularly economic engagement, economic arrangements with other countries that will benefit them and us. Let us learn how we can productively serve each other. We have a need for, you know, whatever it is, microchips. You can have a microchip factory in your country, create jobs, grow wealth there, and we benefit from that. And I think those kinds of arrangements are great. So I actually am really excited about the idea of being involved with Ukraine in this sort of mineral deal that will devolve some economic benefit to us. I think the American people will probably be excited about the prospect of recouping some of the investment we've made in this country over the last several years. Right? That's not wrong, is that? To want to earn back, not plunder, not take from them, but be involved in a mutually beneficial economic arrangement for their security and for our prosperity.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's wrong to want there to be some sort of value in American taxpayers' investment in any other nation that we're dealing with. I think the challenge here is that we have to be really careful that we are not then ourselves becoming a bully. And that was part of the reason why there was so much criticism and so much harsh pushback from President Zelensky about the original ask, which was essentially half of their economy. So I think, you know, there are some lines here that need to be redrawn, both literally and figuratively, and that this discussion it feels like it's moving in a better place, but still, we got to be careful. We are not the bullies of the world, and we shouldn't be.
President Trump clamps down on the White House press corps. We'll discuss. Stay tuned.